Hey everybody, I have read your teaching plans based on service learning and have given you feedback on your paper and graded through your rubric. All of that information is available to you. The concept of service learning is one that is gaining traction, especially in higher education, and even more especially in Christian universities. We know that we are called to be the hands and feet of Christ, that we are to be doing His work even when we're working. The concept of service learning allows us to teach our audience, whether it's student nurses or faculty nurses or hospital based nurses, about an educational content, and then have them use that new insight or new information or learned topic and apply it in a meaningful way in the community to address a community need. You guys had some great ideas, from helping veterans develop emergency kits to AED community training. Oh, there were several. There were so many. My head is spinning. Um, it'll come to me in a minute. There were lots of innovative ideas that I think really show that you know your community and know the needs of your community. We want to make sure that when we address a service learning component within our educational framework, that we are doing something meaningful, not something that's just tucked into our course and we're going to do it whether it's needed or not, but really have a needs assessment as a component of that. You weren't asked to do that as part of this teaching plan, but it's kind of implied that if you are going to be doing something that's serving your community, that it's an actual need. So, as simple as doing a vaccine clinic, that's a great idea. What does that look like practically? Are you serving a need in the community that is necessary? Doing child safety seats, as part of a pediatric course lesson. There's so many ways that we can take what we know in the educational setting and apply it in the community. So if this was a new concept for you, or maybe you've been doing this concept all along, you didn't know that's what it was called, my encouragement is as you go out into the community, whether you're in a hospital setting or an academic setting, that you begin to think about how you can use the content that you're offering and give your students an opportunity to learn through service. And keep in mind that part of service is experiential learning. When the students are in a hospital setting, practicing a skill, or maybe doing blood pressures in a community setting, they are not just talking the talk or in a lab with a partner who's well situated, healthy, no problems, practicing blood pressures, but they're taking that into the community and sitting at the bedside, working with at-risk populations and doing blood pressure screenings in a meaningful way. So that experiential learning we know is really dovetailed into the adult learning theory of how we prefer to learn. We really do want to see where the rubber hits the road. And service learning gives us a segue into embedding experiential learning as well as applying the concept, the didactic or cognitive concepts in practice in a meaningful way. So I really appreciate your thoughtfulness to this. I always like to see the difference between your teaching plan 1 and your teaching plan 2, and how you finesse and make the second one better. I promise you, if this feels like a horribly tedious process, if you're doing it well, it's going to feel like this for a while. Everything you do in the classroom should be intentional. The more you do it, the less you're going to have to make lists of things and create a really structured plan. I think I said in the first feedback for the teaching plan, I have a teaching plan for every time I teach, and I'm a little OCD and get too excited about things and I get to rambling and I forget my time frames. So I actually have a time limit on each section that I'm teaching and give myself a guide of what I'm supposed to be accomplishing. On my PowerPoint slides, that's where I put my discussion questions and things that I want to remember. Okay, on this slide, I'm covering this topic. I'm going to ask them this to get them engaged, to get them thinking. So I do this, and I've been teaching almost 10 years. I do it not just to keep me on track because that's a full-time job, but also to make sure that I'm covering the content that I think I said I was going to cover. You will get better at this. Some things you'll be better at than other people. I'm someone that I have to make a sticky note of all the things I've got to bring to class with me if I'm doing an activity, or if I, heaven knows, if I'm not in the same classroom, then I have to really make a list of all the things I've got to make sure are there. I still need that list because that's just not something that I intuitively remember to pick up all my pieces and parts. I need that. You may find that you only need a handful of pieces from this lesson plan. My encouragement is you don't have to use this tool when you're done and in practice, but use some kind of tool. Use something. I have a plain Word document that has some headers that guide me to remind me what I'm doing, with an open note section. It's something I created. Find something that's meaningful for you. My hope in what you've taken from this is, first, a real aha that this is tedious, tough work, and that doing it well, being intentional about your teaching plan, is an expectation of teaching excellence. If you go into a classroom and you have PowerPoint slides and your preparation was, I read those PowerPoint slides and now I'm going to present myself as a sage on the stage, and I'm going to pontificate and read from my notes, and everyone is going to sit in the classroom dutifully taking notes and writing down every single one of my salient thoughts, you're going to have some real career disappointment really, really quick. I don't have the skill to be able to talk that long, so I used active teaching strategies and engaging strategies as a survival method. The more I learned about being a professional educator, the more I realized that my weaknesses actually turned out to be a strength in my pedagogy and how I approached my teaching. I just got lucky. That wasn't intentional. I become more intentional, and my hope is that you'll start out with good intention, with structure, with rigor in your teaching process, because it improves your students' outcomes and it improves their satisfaction, and it also improves their engagement. So well done. I really appreciate your efforts here. Let's see. Oh, next week. Okay, so let's talk about next week. Your teaching plan is, your presentation is of plan 1. So your general topic that you picked, something that you were interested in. Whatever that presentation you said it was, it needs to be. So if you were going to teach folks in a huddle, then you need to find a group of folks at work that will let you teach them as a huddle, and have somebody hold a camera or your video phone or however you want to capture that information and do what you said you were going to do. Now, practically speaking, most of you intend it for a 10 to 15 minute presentation. The reality is, between logistics and nerves and anxiety and getting everybody on first base, it's probably going to take longer than you think it's going to. I'm going to encourage you to not try to do it all and create a video that's way too long. It's okay for you to focus on the key piece of providing your instruction, and then let's say your evaluation is going to take a little bit longer. Maybe you had a quiz. It's okay for you to say at the end of your lecture that, took maybe about 7 or 8 minutes, we're going to do I'm going to give you a quick quiz, and the questions are going to be on here, and I'm going to evaluate it this way, hand it to them, and then wrap up your video. I don't have to watch people take your quiz. I don't have to watch them. Let's say part of your lesson was you were going to go to the sim lab and do a quick demonstration of listening to breath sounds. I don't have to see you do 10 minutes of listening to breath sounds. You can simply say, okay, folks, we've talked about this. We're going to go to the simulation lab, and we're going to practice this in the lab. That's adequate. I don't have to see the entire part of your teaching plan. What I do need you to do is reference the key pieces, especially using your teaching strategies if you're using a unique one, as well as your evaluation methods. If you mention them, you give me a general gist that you have it tucked into your plan, that's okay. My goal in this is to see you be you, confident instructing in a method you said you were going to use. Okay, again, this is the wrap up of the intentional process of teaching. So that's the goal here. Don't get tangled up in the logistics. Don't get overwhelmed with, this is going to take me 30 minutes and I only thought it was going to take me 10. Focus on your teaching content and referencing your assessment method, and then any active teaching strategies or anything you said you were going to do. Do your best with this. If you have questions or concerns, holler at me. Otherwise, I'm just looking forward to seeing you be fabulous for about 10 minutes in your video. Remember, the other thing that's due this week are your practicum logs. Log 3 should be done. Before you close out Typhon, make sure that your time log has all 50 hours for 618 properly documented. So you should be able to look in your duration column and see 50 hours. Be sure that in those 50 hours that are loaded into your duration column, that in your goals and objective column, you've added the hours that you've used for your goals and objectives. It should be in both places, in the duration column as well as the goals and objective column. And make sure that everything's rolling up and looking the way it should be, and that it's properly placed in the right course. Your practicum, self-evaluation, site evaluation, and your preceptor evaluation all need to be done. It's your responsibility to follow up with your preceptor and say to them, have you done my evaluation? All that needs to be done before Friday. If you have trouble with your evaluations, either the link isn't working or it hasn't deployed correctly, please contact Mrs. Faith Sterling. She is the one that deploys those evaluations and can help you with any troubleshooting. But all that's going to be your responsibility to do. I want to remind you, I can't close out your course and post your final grade until all of those things from practicum have been done and submitted into Typhon and are posting correctly. So be sure that it's done. If you get an email from me that says, hey, your so-and-so is missing, it's going to be your responsibility to chase that. Again, you're not going to be putting anything into Blackboard. All this is done through Typhon. So just make sure, just like it was in 617, make sure you're following that process. And Faith Sterling is your contact person if those things are not working correctly. I think that is everything from my notes. This will be my last video to you. I'm delighted that Gracie and Madeline decided to join us. Clearly, they're not paying the least bit of attention to what we're doing. I have enjoyed working with you these past 8 weeks. I hope that that you can take the strategies and the methodologies that we've talked about and learned about in this course and really look at how they embed within a meaningful curriculum, which is what you're going to be covering in 619. Occasionally I cover 620, so maybe I will see you there. If so, I am looking forward to it. Know that I'm here and know that I'm praying for you. Even when you're off my radar and you have moved on, you're still in my bubble, and I will still keep you in my thoughts and prayers. Let me know how I can support you as you walk the rest of this journey in your MSN program. I will tell you, I'll send an email when all the final grades are posted and give you some time to review that before I post your final grade for your transcript. So just be intentional the first part of next week, looking for those grades and looking for those emails, and touch base with any questions or concerns. Do not dial out until everything is done. I hope you guys are well and taking good care of yourself. We are recovering from snow, as you can see from the puppies who were playing in it. I hope you guys have a great week. Take care.